From SBI's Executive Briefing Center in Dallas, Texas, the most watched and listened to content in B2B sales and marketing, it's the SBI Podcast with your host, Matt Shares.
Welcome to SBI TV, a weekly show dedicated to helping you make your number. Today, we're going to explore how the trend in B2B towards enhanced customer experience requires a purposeful engagement strategy. I'm your host, Matt Shares. I'm the CEO of SBI. Joining me in the studio today is a longtime friend of mine, John deLorimier. John is the Executive Vice President and Chief Experience Officer for Concentra. Concentra is a national healthcare company. They focus on improving the health of America's workforce, one patient at a time. So through their affiliated clinicians, the company provides occupational medicine, urgent care, physical therapy, and wellness services for more than 520 medical centers in 44 states. So John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt.
Great to see you.
Good to be here.
So for those of you that are watching and listening out there and you don't want to miss a weekly show, especially with my buddy John, if you want to access our content library, download the SBI app via the Apple Store, search for Sales Benchmark Index, and you can use the notifications, take us with you on your commute, travel, and workout routine. So buyers have changed. They're more self-serve now than ever before. And everybody's watching this is nodding, going, yes, I got it. However, providers need to make available more useful information, more applicable info for specific customer scenarios at specific times that allow customers and prospects to take action. And self-education can be dangerous. And this is because users often overestimate how much they know and how much they understand the complexity of a market solution. So, John, that's kind of the setup. I'd love for you, before we jump into the segment, just to maybe talk a little bit about your background and what you do. You are incredibly qualified to talk about this emerging trend that I think we're still in the early days on. But first off, tell us a little bit about you and Concentra, and then we'll jump into the show.
Yes, thanks, Matt. Yeah. Thanks for being here. It's always a pleasure to see you and the team. So thanks for that. I'm the Executive Vice President of Concentra, as you said. Yeah. Growth and Customer Experience is my new title.
I like it.
Yes, and it took some time on that one. Yeah. And I think I'll just note this, is I used to be Chief Marketing and Sales Officer. Yeah. But I think from what we're about to talk about, it's important that I changed my title purposely. Yep. To start focusing on what I think is more important than anything else right now is customer experience. Yep. So to your question, Concentra, as you mentioned, we have 520 medical centers retail. We have another 130 on-site medical centers. We have 1,500 docs. We have 800 physical therapists across the country. And we provide certainly the largest occupational medicine provider in the country. We see 1 out of every 5 injuries in the United States. And we do a variety of other services. But for the most part, down to this, what we're talking about 160 field account executives, about 50 account management, and we can talk about that a little later, and that concept of account management, and then inside account managers and inside salespeople, right. Anything else that, and a digital platform as well. So I don't think that's news to anybody, yeah. But I manage that, and I'm constantly looking, as you know, of what we can do to change our channel strategy, yep. To make sure that we are adapting to the customer's needs. And then that leads me to the experience part.
Very good. So something that's interesting about John, and I've had the pleasure of watching John over the decade plus that we've known each other, is he's had the entire commercial function. And this gives him an advantage of sales, marketing, product, and now, as John says, experience. The symbolism of him changing his title signals to the marketplace, both internally and externally, the customer experience matters. John and I are now going to talk about this emergence of brand experience over brand promise. So many companies have responded to this trend by better understanding how to tap into buyer feelings and emotions so they can leverage them. However, few seem to understand that such an enhanced buyer experience needs to be centered in a different brand promise. In fact, the brand promise now needs to become a brand experience. So this is what John and I are going to explore. So, John, at times customers don't believe, right, that a brand promise can actually come to life and connect to a brand experience. So, said differently, am I going to feel what you tell me I should feel that's on your website? Share your thoughts on that at a high level?
Well, let's go back a few years, as you mentioned, right? Yeah. And again, I go back further than you do. But you know, when I started doing this, yes, well, you know, facts are facts. But the you know, the brand promise and the brand experience was something that, you know, we learned from a sales or marketing background a long time ago. Yeah. And for the most part, they always were looked at as equals, right? That we have to have the brand promise and we have to have the brand experience, 50-50. I actually believe in the last 4, 5, 6 years, you know, whatever you want to start using your markers, is that the brand experience is now 70-30 brand promise, and meaning that brand experience is so much more. People call it the Amazon effect, right? That the just to be able to get on Amazon and have something delivered to you the next day or that day as they get better. Decision makers in the B2B world experience that as well. And everything has been everything's faster and faster. And if your organization is not doing that for your customers, right, they are going to get discouraged, right? And then if they try to solve that problem themselves, which, as you mentioned earlier on, that it's certainly going that direction, that they'd rather do it themselves. If they have to jump channels, if they have to, they don't get the reaction they want, and if it's not easy, you know, frictionless, you are not only you're not solving the problem, you're making the problem worse. Yep. And so all that to be said is that brand promise and brand experience, that is certainly more. It's important to go out and present from a selling standpoint what your brand promise is, your value proposition. We certainly need acquisition. My point would be is that from a marketing or sales, marketing, and digital experience, those things have to work closer together and make sure that people can engage your business the way that they want to engage.
So how do you pull that thread through, John, to make sure that the brand experience taps into the emotions and the feelings of the buyer as opposed to the logical academic outcome of walking into a center? Because we all know, right? People act and think based on emotion and they justify with logic. So talk a little bit about how you connect that at the individual salesperson level.
Well, the individual salesperson's level is they have to, you know, they have to study, they have to practice, they have to do everything they should be doing anyway to understand the value proposition and tapping into those emotions, like you said, understanding their personas. None of that's changed, right? I mean, that's blocking and tackling. And you and I have done work on creating personas, right? And then using those personas. And so you understand their business problems, you understand the, you know, what I call point counterpoint from an objection standpoint, and understanding all those things are tapping into those emotions from whoever the buyer persona is. That hasn't changed. The piece that I think changed from a buyer standpoint is that they not necessarily believe you like they used to, right? So they're going to go online, they're going to look at Google ratings, they're going to look at other pieces, which I think the marketing organization has to start to change and back to just creating cut sheets or creating brochures. You know, all that's, and I know that's a thing of the past, I think it's a thing of the past, is that thought leadership becomes more and more important, that customers need a third-party validation of what your brand stands for, and then they got to read it in other places. And so from a content standpoint, we're doing a lot more effort on content, engaging with and using our medical experts to engage to make sure that we get that third-party validation.
So as John and I wrap this segment, as you think about brand promise and brand experience, here would be a quick quiz. If your company has a brand promise that you stand behind, put that on the left side of a sheet of paper. And then if you think about your sales force as the activation mechanism of the brand experience, how close or far away does the seller, when they go out to talk to a potential prospect or a client who's doing some work but could do more, how closely does the experience and the brand promise come together? What are the mechanisms they're using? Because in business to business, the sales force is the activation mechanism of the brand. B2B, sales force is the activation mechanism of the brand. So, great show from John. So John, appreciate seeing you, man. Always good to see you. And you always have great opinions, and you did not stop short on this one. So As always, the team and I appreciate you tuning in, your eyes and ears, because you have a choice on where you spend them. Thank you for your continued support, and that's it for today. As always, until next time, I wish you good luck as you try and make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on the studio, SBI's Executive Briefing Center, our team, or to schedule a workshop, please visit salesbenchmarkindex.com.